The studio lights glared bright against the polished wooden stage. The audience buzzed with anticipation, waiting for the conversation between two figures who couldn't have been more different. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful and influential voices in America, sat confidently in her chair, her smile both warm and commanding. Across from her sat Senator John Kennedy, known for his sharp wit, unapologetic plain talk, and a style that often divided crowds. The cameras rolled, the applause faded, and the interview began. Oprah leaned forward with her practiced poise. "Senator Kennedy, you've often been criticized for telling stories that seem out of place in serious discussions. Folks say you use humor and small-town anecdotes instead of addressing the real issues. What do you say to that?" The audience chuckled softly. Kennedy's lips curled into a half-smile. "Well, Oprah," he drawled in his southern accent, "I figure the truth's easier to understand when it's dressed in overalls instead of a tuxedo." The crowd laughed, but Oprah didn't. She tilted her head back slightly and ever so subtly rolled her eyes. It was quick, but unmistakable. The audience caught it. The cameras caught it. And Kennedy caught it too. For a moment, the air grew tense. Kennedy leaned back in his chair, and the smile disappeared. His gaze sharpened, and his voice dropped lower, steadier. "Let me tell you why I tell stories, Oprah," he began. "It's not because I don't take things seriously. It's because I've seen how serious things really are." The audience went silent. Kennedy clasped his hands together, his tone suddenly carrying the weight of someone who had lived what he was about to say. "I grew up in a small town where my daddy worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. We didn't have much, no fancy vacations, no cushion to fall back on. But what we did have was each other. I learned early that people understand best when you talk in their language, not in numbers or charts. You tell a man drowning in debt about economic trends, and he'll look at you like you're from Mars. But you tell him a story about another man who pulled himself out. And suddenly he has hope." Oprah shifted slightly in her chair. The audience leaned in. Kennedy continued. "I remember a man back home, a farmer, lost everything after a bad season. Bank took his land, his tractor, even the house he built with his bare hands. Folks said he'd never get back on his feet. But he did. He got up every morning, worked odd jobs, saved every penny, and eventually bought himself a little plot again. That man told me once, Kennedy, sometimes the only thing that keeps you alive is hearing that somebody else survived what you're going through." His voice trembled just enough to let the weight sink in. "I don't tell stories to make people laugh, Oprah. I tell them because sometimes a story is the only bridge between a broken person and hope. And I'd rather be accused of being too simple than be guilty of talking so high above people's heads that they give up before they even start listening." The room grew quiet. The laughter from earlier was gone. You could hear the soft hum of the cameras. Oprah, usually quick with a follow-up, stayed still. Her lips pressed together, her eyes locked on Kennedy's. For the first time that evening, she had no words. Kennedy leaned forward, his final words gentle, almost fatherly. "You see, Oprah, you and I, we have platforms. But platforms don't mean a thing if we don't reach down and pull people up with us. I may talk like a country boy, but I'll never stop telling stories that remind people they matter." The audience erupted into applause, loud, prolonged, unshaken. Oprah smiled faintly now, but not the polished smile of a talk show queen. It was smaller, more reflective, almost humbled. She nodded slowly, so acknowledging she had underestimated the man sitting across from her. The interview went on, but the moment had already been sealed. Kennedy's words lingered long after the cameras shut off. They traveled beyond the studio, echoing across living rooms and communities. People shared the clip online, writing comments like, "Finally, someone speaking to us, not at us." Others wrote, "Stories matter." They're how we survive. And even Oprah, later in a quieter moment, admitted to her producers, "I didn't expect him to hit me like that." He reminded me of why I started telling stories in the first place. In the end, it wasn't just a senator defending his style. It was a reminder to millions watching that storytelling is not weakness nor ignorance. It is the heartbeat of humanity, the oldest language we have. And for one unforgettable evening, John Kennedy reminded the world that even the most powerful voices can be humbled by the truth dressed in plain clothes.